Welcome to Our Certain Point of View, where your hosts Jim and Tim will bring you weekly discussions about the Star Wars universe. Our Certain Point of View is a fan-based podcast and has no connections with Disney, Lucasfilm, or any of their subsidiaries.
All right, here we are again. This time we are here to talk about The Mandalorian Chapter 3, The Sin. I am Jim.
And I'm Tim.
And this is Our Certain Point of View. And as usual, as before we get started on the actual recap of the episode, we got a little news to do. And holy cow, this episode was good.
Yeah, it was.
It was so good. So let's get through this news fast. As always, tickets for Rise of Skywalker are available. And as always, we give a shout out to our buddy, what's his name again?
Shasta the Mandalorian.
Shasta Mandalorian Mangold Gordon. We got feedback to talk about. And I actually want to read, we got a beautiful review from Ritzy. And this is awesome. I'm going to read, this is a quote, so this isn't us talking. This is on Apple iTunes review. I have never listened to such an amazing podcast. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. It is as if the heavens split open to provide this godlike podcast. His words, not mine. Never before have my ears listened to such a logical and sophisticated podcast that has now blessed my life from this point forward. I don't know how I've endured this harsh thing called life without this amazing adrenaline racing podcast. That I would call this adrenaline racing. I actually think I sound half asleep whenever I listen to this on my own. But anyway, to continue. If this podcast was in the form of a Chick-fil-A spicy chicken sandwich, I would almost die from the amount of outstanding flavor. I gotta hit more. Flavor and spice. The zest of the podcast-flavored Chick-fil-A spicy chicken sandwich would be the equivalent to the Big Bang, the start of our very own universe, and in parentheses, or so they say. So that was from Ritzy. I think he's dead on. I think he nailed it. It's adrenaline. It's, I don't know if it's adrenaline. Like I said, I think I sound half asleep when I listen to myself talk. But big time appreciate that. Other feedback we got. Actually, now's a good time to say, if you like what you're listening to, please be like Ritzy. And, you don't have to write a review. We appreciate the feedback. But 5 stars is enough to get us being heard by more and more people. We broke 1,200 downloads. We're really excited about that. We're really appreciative of that. We're in 9 different countries now, and most of the states in the United States. So we're loving it. Thank you for all your support. And again, hit follow or 5-star review. It's how we grow the show. And yeah, it's just great. You got anything you want to add before I read some more feedback?
Well, I'd like to do one of the feedbacks. What was that most recent feedback we had on iTunes? Can you open that up?
Yeah. So while you're doing that, let me talk about what we got. John wrote us something, and I'm going to read this verbatim as well. So John wrote, so this was talking about, we're trying to decide, is he an anti-hero or what? And John wrote, one thing I noticed in the last podcast is you all describing character. Something that may help be more descriptive is to use the D&D, Dungeons & Dragons, character alignment chart and language. With Episode 3, Mandalorian definitely breaks from true neutral / lawful neutral, which I think he's right on with that description of what we've seen so far.
Yep.
So he
Absolutely.
says he definitely breaks from that, or possibly chaotic neutral to clearly chaotic good. Chaotic good, he says, is his personal favorite. I.e. Han Solo, Wolverine, Clint Eastwood in the Westerns, etc. I like this. I think this is a particularly appropriate kind of description, especially since clearly the show is calling forth the Clint Eastwood spaghetti Western feel. It's so beautiful. Like that shootout with IG-11 could have been in any, anywhere in Southwest America. It's gorgeous. So, John, that's great feedback. I think he's dead on. We'll probably start using that chart. Now, what was the other iTunes review you wanted to read?
We got a pretty nice iTunes review here from...
it's 5 stars.
It is 5 stars, 0404. In reference to our last podcast, it said, love the podcast, although it says, I listened to episode 11, and they agree with my brother. If you made it all the way to the end, Jim added in a little piece that he recorded without...
it was secret.
Yeah. where I explained to my brother.
He was on the phone. He was very loud. He was. You know what? What did Britzy say? Adrenaline racing.
Yeah. So this one says that they agree with my brother, whoever this may be. 1, 2, 3, and then they have Rogue One, Solo, 4, 5, 6, 7, and leaving out 8. Which honestly, I think you'll need 8 to transfer into 9, but that's neither here nor there. I get that
feeling though.
One small piece. I'm with you. Where we've debated how many times and even if we were going to watch 8 before Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
We did decide that we're going to watch it.
Yeah.
That week before, but. Anyway, it's. But as you push this forward, I understand why people like to do 1, 2, 3 first. I disagree. Calmly. However,
now that he knows the mic is on,
Solo happens before Rogue One. Rogue One ties directly into Episode 4, so you want to switch those two.
You know what? 0404 gave us a 5-star review, so I'm with 0404.
Thanks, 0404. Those are zeros.
That was a 0. Was it a 0? Didn't have a little slash through it. Anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
So, some more feedback. I like this. Cody pointed out the parallel. So, Grief tries to pay the Mandalorian in the very first episode with Imperial credits, and, he doesn't take them. They've lost their value. And Cody pointed out, this is reminiscent of the Qui-Gon scene on Tatooine in Episode 1 where he tries to pay with Republic credits. And it's interesting because that was at the height of the power of the Republic. So it really did underline how Tatooine it's out on the outer rim, and they do what they want.
Yeah, and it is interesting. We're definitely going to come back and talk about some of this money this episode. All right, I've got one more piece here, and this is kind of a PSA as we're moving forward toward Episode 9.
Something sad happened to Tim.
Possibly. Hopefully not, but
hopefully not.
Possibly. I was in a store today. They had an exclusive Black Series figure,
Yahoo!
And it was beautiful, as most of the Black Series figures are.
But
I have some concerns that something in regards to what I saw with this figure may have given something away for the movie. Disney and Lucasfilm have always been really good about that, so I'm hoping that I'm overreading it, but
maybe it gave
maybe not.
Away.
So if you're not an avid toy collector and you're not just trying to catch them all in the Pokemon sense, maybe try to avoid some for a couple weeks because there might be some stuff out there that you don't want to see yet.
I'm not looking. All right. Well, that was our PSA. And as they say, this is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. All right. Let's do our countdowns. Rise of Skywalker is our next big event, and it is a big event. And the more I think about it, the more excited I get. And I hope I'm not just being set up. It's all good. So December 19th, which places it
25 days away. Right now, if you have more than one advent calendar, you can go get one from your local grocery store for $2.
Yeah.
And do a 25-day countdown to the Rise of Skywalker.
And you get twice the chocolate, depending on what your advent calendar is.
That's right.
Clone Wars Season 7 at the furthest.
At the furthest, 97 days away.
97 days away. Star Wars Day, May the 4th.
May the 4th. We are 162 days away.
He does this math in his head while we're doing it. That's an interesting sound. Star Wars Celebration, August 27th through 29th.
Starts in 277 days.
Yahoo! In Anaheim, California. And no updates on Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, we're still waiting.
Yep, so let's get right into the story. So as usual, I kind of want to start with some meta here and talk about the writing and Disney and all that. Actually, I don't have anything to add about Disney other than
I do.
Okay, go.
And I don't know if we saw this before, but this was something you talked about last week. If you go to the episode, before you hit play, just to the right of the resume button, there's a restart button.
Oh, yeah, I think I did notice that.
Yeah, so it wasn't there, but now it is there.
After complaining about they're listening to our podcast.
Yes, so those Disney streaming execs, we appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening, and we love you. 0404. All right, so this one, as the first two, so the third one is also written by Jon Favreau, but we have a new director on board. which is interesting because we saw a big battle in this one. The director was Deborah Chow, not sure how to pronounce that, Chow. So new director, but Dave Filoni, of course, continues to show up as the executive producer. So that's awesome. And then I saw there's a lot of talk about how Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni together are just remaking the Star Wars universe. Oh, there's so many theories about how the Mandalorian can tie into the Skywalker stories, and I like these theories, and we'll talk about them more. Probably at the end of the program, we'll save all our theories about Rise of Skywalker and potential, Easter eggs and stuff that come out of the Mandalorian. But for now, let's talk about The Sin. You want to talk about a loaded title?
Yeah.
So we can get into that in a little bit, but what I think there are two conflicting value systems going on here. And thus the name, The Sin. I did notice that this was rated TV-14. You mentioned that before, but that's the first time I noticed that it said violence. And it's a little violent, I'd say. Wouldn't you say there's some violence in this?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a John Wick moment there.
Yeah, it's definitely got some. I don't know if it's... Well, yeah, and I think some of the violence was with the intensity of the...
I love it.
The trooper scene. I think more than the outside scene. I think the trooper scene was the intense scene that would.
You talking about the stormtroopers?
I am talking about the stormtroopers.
The mighty stormtroopers.
We were going to get to those. This was such a cool scene, and I like the stormtroopers in this.
But we got to start with the beginning.
Yes.
And we begin with the ship coming out of hyperspace. I actually kind of broke my own rule and tried to look up the name of this planet, where Grief is and where the client is, and the name has not been put out, so there is no name for this planet. What made me do this is when he's flying into atmosphere, you can see there's all these molten lava cracks across the planet, and that made me like, okay, I got to see. It's not Mustafar, is my guess, but that did make me curious.
It can't be Mustafar.
It's an outer rim planet. I think we do know that. Maybe it's not though.
Yeah, because he said you can go into the core.
Yep, that's right,
and take it up the New Republic.
And we'll get there in a second.
Yeah, we will.
So it's just one of those little sound editing things. My voice sounds so good right now.
There's that sound edit.
This is where I need my brother, the sound engineer, to come help me sound good. Ooh, we should auto-tune our voices. Anyway, sound engineering on this is awesome. So it comes out of hyperspace. It shows them in the cockpit, them being the child in the Mandalorian. Did you notice the creaking sounds? It almost sounds like an old sailing ship, and I love it. It just gives such a feeling to the ship. It makes it, very real feeling, even though, it's outer space. Love it. And he gets a communique from Grief.
Yep.
And it says, bring the quarry to the client. And
directly to the client, yep.
That's the first time we see it called the quarry. But it'll be called the quarry again later. And the Mandalorian does something kind of uncharacteristic for a bounty hunter, bringing in a bounty. He asks him a question. No, he didn't ask him a question.
No, he didn't ask him a question.
At this point, Grief just volunteers. I don't know if he's going to eat it or hang it on his wall.
But he's really anxious to get it, or antsy, or something like that.
And then Baby Yoda,
which was a weird thing for Grief to say too.
There's a couple moments in here that where the writing was a little bit kind of on the nose, in your face. I think that's one of them, where he just voluntarily says for no reason, don't know if he's going to eat it or hang it on his wall. Because we know that's supposed to bring emotions in the Mandalorian about, well, I don't like that.
Right.
And the other moment I'll talk about when we get also involves Grief. But
we have a great line here. Are we at the line now?
Which line? About when the baby takes the what does he say?
It's not a toy.
It's not a toy. And considering the amount of toys that are going to be made of Baby Yoda, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
It's not a toy. So Baby Yoda pulls the top off of some gear shift thing. And so we see some interaction there. And Mandalorian just simply says, it's not a toy, puts him back in his little egg. And now we're on the planet.
Yes, and we have a not long, but longer than is fully needed walking sequence. So we get some cool stuff out of this. We get to see some of the other things going on again, which is great, because I love this planet, and I love seeing the market and all that stuff.
It's really well done.
The child is still paying attention and watching what's going on, and you can see that it still has that involvement. And honestly, I think that a lot of this whole walking sequence was there to keep us guessing. Where is he going to go?
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's what it was.
Well,
we don't know our way around town, so we don't actually know where he's going until he gets to the door.
And at the end of the last episode of our podcast, I believe we even started speculating: is he going to take him to the client? What's he going to do with this thing?
Yeah, I assumed he'd go straight to the Mandalorian.
I think
what do
we
they
both
call it?
did.
A covet?
They do. They call it a covert. Covert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was where we both left off at the end of the last episode. And no, that's not what he does. He does his job.
Yep.
He goes to see the client.
There's one more. They had the archway. As soon as he parked his ship, he walks through the archway. And it's another one of those archways like they had on Jakku, where it's just kind of sitting there. There's no, fence around it. It's not like the way in. Like, you could just go around it. But for some reason, they have this archway. It's just something that seems to exist in the Star Wars universe, maybe to just identify a city limit or something of that nature. But there's an archway that he actually walks through before he starts walking through town.
Well, that's also, I think, a callback to old Western towns. Oftentimes, you'd see those kind of wooden arches.
Oh, yeah, the same kind of...
Yeah, to show you're entering the town limits. That's cool.
Yep.
I didn't notice that. So he goes...
the one on Jakku got destroyed.
Yeah.
Episode 7.
This one's going to take a beating before it's over.
Yeah.
But it'll still be there.
Yep.
So we go to the door. Our TT-8L gatekeeper droid's out there, shows them the thing. And then 2 stormtroopers come out. Did you notice anything about them? About the stormtrooper's armor?
What was all?
Well, it's all we always notice is beat up. It just stuck out to me. One of them, the little round pack they wear on their belt, one of them is missing. It looks like it was ripped off. So they're making sure these guys are not in the best condition.
This was one of the first times that they actually looked. I kind of wrote this. They kind of looked terrifying. Like they looked scary in that scene right there when they stepped out of the door.
Yep.
I was like, they really look like, and it makes sense. These are the guys who are still around from the Empire.
Yeah,
and they're still devoted to the Empire. But they gotta have that, and then they.
I'm with you.
Flipped it around real quick.
The very first time we ever saw stormtroopers when they're boarding Leia's ship in A New Hope, they were scary there.
Yeah,
they seemed like this unstoppable fighting force, and so it's a callback to who these guys are really supposed to be.
All of their fear went away after that, though. That was the last time that we were really.
I like the scene. Well, anyway, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Oh, I don't mean that late. I mean in the rest of episodes 4, 5, and 6, they weren't.
They were scary on Hoth.
Like the scout troopers.
They were scary on Hoth. They were not scary on Endor. Oh well.
Anyway, the troopers were scary on Hoth.
I think so.
The machines were scary on Hoth.
Yeah, the whole thing. Anyway.
So all right. So back to what we call classic stormtrooper. They walk into the door.
You take it easy.
Yeah, because easy with that. You take it easy.
That was a weird one, but it did. It almost seemed like something Seth MacFarlane would write. Like, wait, that's your insult? Well, yeah. You take it easy.
You take it easy.
Which I like that because that's like actual dialogue. That's like the way people talk, which is to say, it's not a perfectly delivered line every time. Somebody says something to you, and you're like, "Oh, well, you take it anyway. You take it easy." And we see Dr. Pershing. And he says he's very healthy. And then the Mandalorian asks for the first time, but not the last time, how many fobs did you send out? He asked the client, how many fobs? And the client doesn't answer directly. He just says this was a very important asset.
I had to ensure its delivery.
Yep. And then he compliments him about, you live up to your reputation as being the guy. And then he produces a Hamilton Beach 4-quart capacity ice cream maker.
Yeah.
I looked it up. That was a Hamilton. No, that one wasn't. This is what he's been calling the Camtono, the word we couldn't remember last week. And it's full of what? Beskar. So the joke behind this, Beskar. So in Empire Strikes Back, and we mentioned this in one of our coverage of Empire Strikes Back episode, there's a character who's become kind of a cult favorite. You see a lot of people dressed like this guy at Comic-Cons or Star Wars Celebration. Wilbur Hood. And you only see him for less than 2 or 3 seconds. I don't know how long. And he's running with what is in real life a Hamilton Beach 4-quart capacity ice cream maker, which is a big plastic white thing. It's the thing... It looks like the thing on Mandalorian that all the Beskar's in. But they retconned this, and it was a data core that this guy's trying to get off Bespin while the Empire Strikes Back. Hey, that's the name.
There you go.
But anyway, that was a huge fan service for me. As soon as I saw that, I was like, yes, that's the Wilbur Hood thing. But this time it's being used to hold Beskar. And the client, and now the Mandalorian does something also out of character. He asks the client, what are your plans for it?
What are your plans for it? Yeah.
Yeah. And, yeah, he doesn't want to answer that.
He doesn't.
It's not his business.
And almost on cue, when he says, that's essentially he says, that's none of your business. I was under the impression that you don't ask those questions.
And this is where
more stormtroopers walk in.
Yeah. So there was a lot more there than we saw in the first episode. We only saw 4 in the first episode, but we know there's more than that. And then he says, finding a Mandalorian is more difficult than finding the steel.
Yes.
That is a very interesting line.
And that was an interesting line.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons. So this kind of brings up 2 questions for me. He gave the Mandalorian a pretty substantial
amount of Beskar.
amount prior to.
Yeah.
Right? Like
for a Paul Droon.
Yeah, he gave him a pretty substantial amount. And we'll find out soon just how many hunters are on this. Not exactly how many, but the sort of the amount, the feeling of the amount of people who are on this. Did everyone get a down payment?
That's a good question.
Because that's a lot of down payment.
Well, we know he has more because Grief got paid in Beskar as well. So we know he's sitting on more. We also, and we'll get to this more, the client is representing someone himself. And we'll have to talk about that when we get to that part.
And now what I wonder is, does he... Can we talk about the Beskar as a form of payment for a minute?
Yeah.
Did he do the down... I mean, assume others got down payment. And he was told that he was the best.
Yeah.
So maybe that was the reason for the down payment. Maybe the others didn't get it, which would make sense.
He got it because he is Mandalorian.
That's my guess.
The guy made the comment it should go back to where it is, natural order of things.
When I think that's what this finding a Mandalorian is difficult piece was.
Yeah.
It was so this is what kind of bothered me, because I'm torn between these 2 ideas. Is finding a Mandalorian is far more difficult, or in these trying times, right? Finding a Mandalorian is more difficult than finding the steel.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
At least for an Imperial agent.
So I want to know if that means we have this steel and we know that we can pay you to do whatever we want because you want this steel.
Yeah.
And we need someone to give it to, and you'll take it.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, later on,
Well, I think, when we get to the armor, we're really going to talk about this.
Well, and when he talks to Grief, he says, a lot of people are already weighing up what you're doing.
Yeah.
The amount of Beskar you have. So it seems like that's a valid, and you brought this up about what the form of payment was. You might have even said that Beskar would be a good form of payment or a good item as currency.
Yep.
And we're kind of seeing that.
And, I can't help but make my obscure historical references. What it reminds me of is in Native American tradition, they have wampum. Now, a simplified...
Wampus?
No, wampum.
Oh.
And a simplified version of history, people have started referring to this as money. This is incorrect. It was extraordinarily valuable to the Native Americans, so they accepted it as trade, but it was never a form of money. They used it to create jewelry and to decorate clothing, but they actually used it as a way to write. They wrote in pictographs with wampum. But they would use it, accept it as kind of a barter to the point where people started referring to it as money. And Beskar is kind of the wampum of the Mandalorians, and for the same reason, a lot of time they were hiring the Indians as warriors.
Yep.
So I thought that, but you know what? So he says, finding the Mandalorian is more difficult than finding the steel, and then we get to the title. So all of this was part of the cold open. So we haven't even, really started the episode at this point. Which brings us to another interesting thing. This episode, 30 minutes, and it has like 4 minutes of credits. Which the credits are gorgeous if you haven't watched that.
Yeah.
They got the Ralph McQuarrie drawings.
I love all the art in the background.
The concept drawings are beautiful. But so this is really short, so I don't know where people got this expectation.
37, I think it was.
Maybe.
I think we had 39, 32, and 37 was this last one.
But they're definitely not full-on 45 minutes or 1 hour long episodes, which I think was what the fans expected, even though that was never promised by anyone. I gotta admit, I kind of expected these to be like hour-long episodes.
That was my expectation.
So I was hoping for 8 hours of Mandalorian this first season, but it looks closer to, 16 or 17 hours.
I think, and we've actually said that, not about The Mandalorian, but about Obi-Wan Kenobi. We were like, hey, we're expecting a series. We're getting 8 hours of Obi-Wan. Like, that was...
Yeah.
I think we said that in our podcast. Like, it's coming, and we didn't... We're not seeing that. However...
I meant to say, 6 hours, not 16. Anyway.
Yeah.
I did bad math, and you didn't catch it.
I heard you say 8.
And then I said, but instead we'll get 16 hours.
Oh.
I doubled it.
Yeah.
Instead of halving it.
Yeah.
My math teacher would be very unhappy.
Yeah, well, we're a little more than half, so we'll let it slide. And we're waiting to see. I'm still convinced that we've done 39, 32, 37. If they need more time for the next episode, they'll give it to us. So
That is the beautiful thing about streaming services. They can now make the stories as long as they need to be, to tell the story, as opposed to meet some sort of commercial criteria.
And I gotta say,
that's good
for these last 2 episodes.
Yeah,
they were short. They were shorter than I wanted initially.
Yeah.
But seeing them through to completion,
I love it.
I don't think I would have wanted any of the filler.
No,
to make them longer.
This is the first one. So again, I watched the first and second one 4 times before we podcasted. This one I watched 3 times, and I gotta admit there were a few scenes where I'm like, okay, I gotta get through this scene. And it's not a bash on the show. I love it. It's just anytime you watch something 3 times in a row, it might get a little trying. But this is the first one where I felt like, okay, this scene I can check out a little bit. Like you said, when he walked away from his ship. There's some else. But bottom line is, they didn't use more time than they needed. They used just the right amount, I think.
Yeah.
And now we've actually started the episode, and he has gone back to, what did we say it was called? The Covert. The Armorer.
Yes.
And we see a dude who, if you turn on his the subtitles, is simply called Heavy Infantry.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how cool was that? So, do you want to walk us through this, or you want me to walk us through this?
Yeah. So he comes in and he's walking down the hall, and it begs the question: what do the other Mandalorians do? Right at first, when you're first walking down this hall, and you're like, all right, everybody's still just leaning on this wall.
They're hanging out.
Now there were a few of them in this episode that were fidgeting with something or working on gadgets or like they were doing something, but they were still just kind of leaning on the wall, working on whatever they were working on. So they answered this question in a few minutes here.
Yep.
Walks it through, has clearly got this container. Everybody knows what's in the container. He's walking to the armorer.
Yeah.
And the other Mandalorians just start to fill in behind him. And you don't know what it's going to be. Are they all,
are they buddies?
Buddies, and they're just going to, hang out and celebrate? Or are they all about to, jump him, and only one of them's going to take the...
I'm getting so excited about this because it was always my hope that this show would be about Mandalorians.
Yes.
And it looks like that's where we're going.
Yeah.
That the main character is kind of being, maybe he'll turn out to just be the device through which we learn all about the houses of Mandalore. Oh, I'm so excited about this. It reminded me of some of my favorite Clone War episodes, which focused on the Mandalorians. So he goes to the armor, he puts it down, and the heavy infantry guy sees it. He's not happy. And this is what reminds me of the Clone Troopers. They're all on the Clone Wars cartoon, when they show the Mandalorians, they're all Mandalorians, and they have that sense of family, but they don't get along with each other.
Right.
Yeah, they're very quick to throw down with each other. And that's exactly what he does. But he says some interesting quotes. One of them I wrote down here, he accuses him of working with the Empire.
Sitting at the table with the Empire?
Yeah. And he says, and this is the quote about the Empire, the reason we stay hidden like sand rats.
Yeah.
And this is 5 years after the fall of the Empire, so Mandalore must have taken one heck of a beating. And I'm hoping that's the story that we're going to eventually see. What is going on with Mandalore that they are still hiding like rats?
Well, especially because of what we're going to talk about in just a second with who we actually see attacking Mandalore.
Yeah,
which isn't the Empire. That's what I kept expecting. And
yep.
So now there are multiple things happening to this planet.
Well, I'm going to back up a second. We don't know that was Mandalore. Those people are not dressed as Mandalorians. They're not wearing helmets. I'm thinking that they're taking kids wherever they can and raising them Mandalorians. And that's why this thing about foundlings, because I think Mandalorian is a culture, not like a genetic thing. Meaning, like, any kid they find, if he's raised Mandalorian, he's Mandalorian.
Kind of like the opposite of Judaism.
Yeah.
Where it's
again, I kind of...
They consider that kind of a...
The more I look at this, the more I'm reminded of Native Americans. When they adopt you, you are them.
Right.
You are a member of that tribe, 100%. So, yeah.
That's interesting. I like that. Because that ties a bit more of it together. Now, there is some discrepancy here about the helmet and the removal of helmets, because we've seen in the Clone Wars, we know in the Clone Wars, they're all running around, like the helmet isn't part of their...
No.
And I'm wondering if some of that is the...
Maybe that's post-Empire.
I think that's a post-Empire thing.
And maybe this has to do with the fact that these are not people originally from Mandalore anymore.
And you don't want to recognize them and recognize that they don't have whatever characteristics a Mandalorian would have.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah.
One last quote from the heavy infantry guy. Our world was shattered by the Empire. So we have confirmation that Mandalore is defeated by the Empire.
Yes.
So my guess is, because in the past, Mandalore tended to side with the Sith. They always fought the Republic. So my guess is Palpatine, as soon as he sees power, crushed them like he did everybody else. So we have confirmation that the Empire does destroy, does break Mandalore.
And it was right around this point, I think, so it's funny, and I have to mention anyway, because my wife pointed out something really, really excellent in her first watching, which was my second watching, but not my note-taking watching, so I didn't write it down. And I was like, that's amazing. And she said, well, if you say it in your podcast, you got to mention me. And I don't remember what it is. So we're going to rewind.
So we know something really smart was said by Tim's wife at this point.
Something that I hadn't noticed, and she enjoys Star Wars, but doesn't have quite my obsession with it. So anyway, when I remember what it is and I come back and talk about it, you'll know that it was from her. But I wanted to give a shout out to her because she's a pretty awesome lady. Anywho,
my wife's awesome too.
Yeah, she is.
All right, so the armor, these two actually start to physically fight. They have the infantry and the Mandalorian, and they go to knives, which I think is fascinating, considering how much weaponry they're carrying. And I just thought that was really cool.
I wonder if was that a to the death thing, or was that a first blood? Like, is that a Mandalorian, like, we're going to settle this, first blood settles it, you don't have to speak it, but it's just going to happen. Now, they're using some pretty wicked knives.
Yeah, I mean,
those vibro blades. But
it's a pretty dangerous game they're playing.
Yes.
So if it's not to the death, it maybe nearly could be. And the armor breaks it up.
She stops them immediately in mid-swing, which is interesting. And I actually had somebody stop me and ask me, did she stop them with the Force? Because the way they were stopped so quickly with the knife at his neck, and it was at her first word. Yeah. My thought is she spoke, they stopped. However, and it also seemed like in that moment, the heavy infantry actually had the knife to his neck.
Yeah.
And and the Mandalorian's knife was about halfway away from him.
Yeah. He was swinging up from, at that point, undercut style.
Had he kept swinging, the infantry guy had the kill.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if once he earned the kill, that's what actually stopped it. So there are a couple of things that could have happened.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, so there's a couple. Yeah,
because I feel like they're like killing each other because that.
Well, there's not enough of them that they can afford to keep killing each other at this point.
So I'm thinking that's what was settled there. It was a disagreement. They kind of got into it, but it's
things. We know they're disciplined fighters, so maybe she's in charge. So when they say stop, that was a sign of how disciplined they are. That they stops instantly. Maybe, like you said, I kind of like your theory that once he made contact at the neck level, it's like, okay, you won. But
and that might have been when she spoke. Like, she was like, okay, I recognize this, I can speak now. Because she sat and let them have at it until that moment.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. I got to rewatch that again and see if that's...
The eighth time is the charm.
Yeah.
But, so we talked about in Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader, his acting through the helmet.
Yeah.
The armorer's acting through the helmet.
She's spectacular.
When he opens the component thing in the Camptono, and the Beskar is revealed, like it's like there's an expression on her helmet of awe at how much this is. I love. I don't know how they pull that off, but it's really well done. So she says this is enough for a what did she say? For a cuirass, I guess she says, which turns out to be actually more than just the best breastplate. We know he's got one pauldron from the first episode. Right. Now he's got the second one, but now he's also got gauntlets.
He's got gauntlets, so were his thighs too, maybe?
I think maybe. Oh my gosh.
I think they were shining too. Yeah, that was a lot. Which was interesting, because the first thing she said...
just means the full kit.
The first thing she said is you have a lot of options.
Yep.
With this. And then he said, well, I need to start over. Which the start over was interesting, because he had the pauldron and the helmet. So I wasn't quite sure about the I need to start over piece, but he definitely needed a new chest plate. He said my chest needs to be.
Yep.
I need that redone.
But before
and she said I can do a full cuirass of that. Yeah.
I actually forgot a pretty important part that she when she stops him, she asks him some pretty important questions.
Some pretty pointed, deep questions.
And she says to be a Mandalore is to be both hunter and prey. And then she says, what does she ask him?
Have you ever removed your helmet?
And he says no. And then I think more importantly, she says.
Has an enemy ever removed your helmet?
Yeah, has anyone else ever removed your helmet? And
he says never. He said no, and then he said never.
Yeah.
Which, you know what? Bringing back the kill stroke, he had the kill. With the vibroblade, it's just a push. It wasn't even like he had to pull back and go again at him. So he was still there holding that kill stroke. And I wonder if she stepped in to be the deciding factor.
Yeah. It was awesome.
And then, if he had said...
And this is the first time they respond with, this is the way.
Oh, because she says, yes, this is her... Our secrecy is our survival.
Yep.
Our survival is our strength.
Yep.
And then she says...
This is the way.
After the never, she says, this is the way.
And then they all repeat it. This is the way. And then when we find out throughout the episode, apparently this is the motto of the Mandalorians.
Which I love this motto, and I'm going to use it in different things in my life, including our podcast. We did it at the beginning of this podcast.
I have spoken.
I've spoken. No, we're not done yet.
Oh, never mind. This is the way.
This is the
way.
I
have not yet entirely spoken. She asks him if he's got a sigil, asks how he got his armor destroyed, and he says, I fought a mudhorn. And she's like, oh, okay, this will be your sigil.
Your signet,
and then he says something really interesting. It was not a noble kill. I was helped by an enemy.
I was helped by an enemy.
And she said, well, why did an enemy help you? And he said they didn't know they were an enemy. So we see how he saw Baby Yoda.
It was really interesting to hear and see and know it that way.
This is an enemy, helped by an enemy.
And we're gonna come back to that for sure toward the end of this.
It's a good thing he didn't have a mudhorn as his sign, because what did she do with the Beskar since he didn't have a sign?
She made the whistling birds.
The whistling birds.
Yeah.
And then he said, make sure you leave the leftovers for the foundlings. And she says, the foundlings are the future.
Yes, as it should always be. The foundlings are the future. This is the way.
This is the way.
Before she said that, there's another line. Was it before or right after? I loved this line. And this is right before she starts to make it, or right in this, when she's talking about what she's going to make him.
Itruda.
She says, this would be an order for your station.
Ooh, I didn't catch that.
When she says, I can make you a full cuirass.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And he says, yes. She said, it will bring a lot of attention.
Yeah. So,
which I think is what you were mentioning earlier, to bring a lot of attention to you. It will draw a lot of eyes, I think is what she said. But then she said, this would be an order for your station, which I thought was really interesting because
it denotes a rank structure.
It shows that he's got some say and some pull. Yeah, you're a lot, not some say, but...
Well, they also said they can only go out one at a time, and we've seen him out now twice, and potentially a third time because he leaves to take on another job.
Right.
That he ends up turning down.
And we kind of talked about that last episode, I think, about whether is he the only one that can go out or what.
They make the comment that they only go out one at a time.
One at a time, and so they're all kind of there. But he doesn't seem like he's an emissary to the outside world for them. So it's kind of it's strange. They obviously can't go out in a group.
Well, I guess maybe he's just the one earning the money as a bounty hunter for the whole group. Because the heavy infantry wouldn't be a good bounty hunter.
But it doesn't seem like he's paying to them. It seems like he's donating to the foundlings. Yeah. But that what he brings in is being made for him. I mean, we've only seen him bring in. He did bring in. You said
we don't have enough.
The calamari.
Yeah, he gave the money to him.
Flan? Was it flan?
It was flan, actually. It was calamari flan. That's what they called it. Because it made me hungry.
Yeah.
So, again, as she's forging this new armor, he has flashbacks. And you already referred to this. We see the attack on whatever his homeworld was. Right. And we see a callback. What did we see?
We saw a super battle droid.
Super battle droid. Which was awesome.
I've been playing with this in my mind. Like, battle droid, I get it. What did you make? You made a battle droid. Mm-hmm. And it's a very, I would say, Americanized way of describing the super more intense. Droid. They're like, what's that one? That's a super battle droid. You know? And it's just funny. I don't have any issues with them being named that.
Would you rather an Uber battle droid?
Uber battle droid. It was just funny. I liked it.
Le Grand battle droid.
It hadn't...
Battle droid Le Grand.
We saw the ship, too, the Separatist ship.
We saw a Separatist ship come swooping down and
taking shots. And there was a lot of stuff going on. And then
you know what's funny? I wonder if that was CGI, the battle droid, I mean. Because all of them were about CGI'd for the movies.
I would think so.
Which means that they were never, ever built. You know, there was never a clone trooper set of armor built for the movies. That's all CGI. Not one. Not even Cody. Or Cody 2. If there was one. Anyway, just...
Really?
Yeah, little fun fact. Curious. Huh. So, 2 gauntlets, chest, and pauldron. His parents hide him in there, and battle droid...
Immediately an explosion right where they were.
Droid. Yeah.
Not enough time for them to get away from what exploded.
They're gone, probably.
The way that happened.
It shakes it, and then the door's flung open, and we see the super battle droid take aim, and we don't know what happens next. And Tim and I have been debating who's going to save this little rascal.
Right. And I will say this, because I'm sure there's going to be a debate of, this kid's parents could still be out there because we don't see them die, blah, blah, blah. I don't think so.
We never saw the Emperor die either.
Yes. I think that this was a way of the show being very clear that they're gone.
I do too.
Without having to be too graphic with a kid.
Yeah.
And parents. I think that was what happened. So
yeah.
If you're debating that, stop it. I've spoken.
Well, all right, that's the show. No. So of course the debate's going to be who saves him. I assume it's going to be Mandalorians will save him, but we can go on so many tangents from here. So let's say, because the Jedi are the ones fighting the Separatist droids. If the Jedi come in there and kill that droid and protect the child, then there's going to be how did he end up with the Mandalorians? But if the Mandalorians are the ones who save him, that means the Mandalorians were at war against the Separatists, which means they were fighting on the side of the Republic, at least in this case. So there's some ramifications to whoever saves him.
Well, there's such a weird... Going back to what you said, if they're on some other planet, what are the Mandalorians doing running around if the Empire hasn't purged? Because the Empire's not there yet.
We got questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
We got questions. All right, so he leaves the... did you have anything else?
No, that was it there. And she was awesome. The armor is awesome. We're so excited about the armor.
Is there anything about the show that's not awesome, though? I mean, no. There isn't. And even if you say there is, that just means you're wrong. I don't know. Grief. We go back to the bar. Now, the first time, episode 1, he goes in the bar. It's not really that big of a stir. But this time, everyone stops and they look at him.
Yeah.
And he asks for the second time, how many tracking fobs did you give out? And Grief, he's in a pretty good mood, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he says, all of them.
All of them.
Yeah,
all of them have them.
And then
only you.
Only you. You're the best.
But before he does that, he's talking to somebody else.
Who is?
Reprimanding him. Grief.
Oh, yeah,
walking in. Reprimanding the one with the
dust breather.
The one with the saucer-shaped helmet. And he calls him a dust breather.
Looks like the guy from Mortal Kombat.
Which was a weird,
Ronan or something like that?
That was a weird insult.
Yeah, dust breather.
I thought Dust Breather was a weird
What if he's a
insult.
Plo Koon type? We didn't see.
Yeah.
Plo Koon can't breathe oxygen. That's why he always wears that mask. That's why he has a thing on his eyes, too. Oxygen hurts him.
So all of them.
All of them.
All of them had it.
And then we hear one of the bounty hunters looks at the Mandalorian and says, Ichuta.
Yeah.
Which we know is an insult because we heard it in Empire Strikes Back. How rude.
How rude.
And
now, yes, then I love that. I love that drawback.
And now we have a deep religious...
We're not... we might be there yet.
Because the Mandalorian... Well, wait a minute. I've lost track of my notes.
Okay, then I'm going to say something.
You say something.
All of them have them, right?
All of them have them.
All of them have the tracking fobs. But only you brought it back. Only you did this. And you know what?
When you walked
The
in.
rest of them are all sitting in the bar.
Yeah.
Right, like, who has them? Well, we all have them.
Well, we know there are 3 Trandoshans that aren't sitting in the bar.
Right. We know why most of you don't have the win, because you're sitting here in the bar. You didn't go anywhere.
Maybe. I guess the other alternative is somehow they got back before him.
I mean, he did make a couple of stops, but...
There's no way all those people went to the client, because there'd be a line outside his door.
It's weird.
Yeah, that's true.
There's something weird in this whole everybody's after
Ooh,
it.
maybe it was a setup. Meaning, after the Mandalorian got the job, then he gave it to everybody else, so that they would track the Mandalorian instead of trying to track the baby. I don't know.
No, that still seems...
We don't have answers.
I don't know.
But this is where we get into a deep theological discussion, because our guy Grief, he's I think the only second time in Star Wars we hear the word hell.
Yeah.
He says, hell, even I am rich. And so they have hell, I guess. Because you know who else said it?
Han.
Han Solo.
Yeah.
I'll see you
in hell.
So apparently we've got at least a couple believers. There's an afterlife, and we'll be headed for some serious strife. So, yeah, he says, hell, even I'm rich. And this is where we see what I call Chekhov's Beskar. You know that phrase, Chekhov's gun? Mm-hmm. So if you see a gun, and for those of you not familiar, if you see a gun in the opening act of a play or a TV show or a movie, it usually suggests that someone's going to be shot at some point in the story. So as soon as he showed that he had Beskar in his pocket, and this is the second time, remember I said there's 2 times where it just kind of seemed like, okay, we better make sure this is in the story, and it maybe didn't feel organic. The first one was where he said, I don't know if he's going to eat it or mount it on the wall. That seemed out of place. And then this one where he actually flashes Beskar in a bar full of bounty hunters. That was very, all right, we need this for the plot.
I actually disagree. I don't get to do this much.
Yay.
Yeah. I actually disagree. I think that he had the shifty eyes. He looked around before he pulled it out.
Yeah, he did.
He made sure to be sneaky. And he showed it. And yes, they did need it for what's later. No. But I think that it was still his... it still fits his character.
Maybe.
He was overjoyed.
He's a showboater, I guess.
He's thrilled. He's like, even I'm rich. You're good. Go have a vacation. Go relax.
That's true.
We'll go to the bathhouse. Like all these things that he's talking about. And he's like, look, even I've got this. It still kind of fits.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. For me, I'm more bothered by all the tracking bombs.
Yeah, so am I, to be honest. It didn't pull me out of the story. Although, again, when I saw it, I was like, okay, that's significant.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw him at the end, I was like, okay, I know why they showed it now. But on the other hand, I actually agree with everything you're saying. My only still hesitation kind of is, are you really going to show a Mandalorian that you have Beskar when that's like all they live for? I mean, I don't know. Apparently the Mandalorians have a pretty strong code of honor, and that's why I think the name The Sin for this episode is fascinating.
Yeah.
Which I guess now we can talk about. This is where it comes to a head. There are 2 codes that the Mandalorian's living by. One is the code of Mandalore, and one is the code of the bounty hunters. And the bounty hunters, don't ask, don't tell. Yeah, as Bill Clinton once said. So you don't ask what's going to happen to the bounty. You don't need to know what they did or any of that stuff, I guess. You just turn them over to whoever you're supposed to turn them over to. But the code of the Mandalorians, I would assume, is that if someone helps you in battle, that's where I think he gets this sense of allegiance to the child. I don't think it's because it's a child necessarily. I think that's a huge part of it because we know the foundling thing's huge. But the child saved him. Probably saved his life in the battle against the Mudhorn.
Yep.
And they make a point of bringing that up in this episode. And of him saying, it wasn't a legitimate kill, or however he put it. It wasn't a noble kill. So I think that's the code, and that was the sin. That someone who helped him, who saved his life, he turned over. So I think that's where the title comes from. The sin. All right, so why don't we go to a Twilight healing bath?
Twilight healing bath.
Take some time off, buddy. You're rich. We're both rich.
Take a vacation.
I guess it doesn't occur to Grief that the Mandalorian's wearing his money. I mean, you want to talk about mad bling?
What do you call him? You call him a legend? They all hate you. He said because you're a legend, because you're... Was it legend?
I don't remember that.
So they all hate you because you're a legend. I think it was legend. Whatever it was. That was cool. That was before all this. So finally he says...
Let me get a new bounty.
I want my job. I want my next job.
And he says, a Mon Calamari, and he's the son of a nobleman. This was tickling some memory in my head. Do you know this story? Is there a story I'm missing here? Is he talking about someone specifically? Because obviously the most famous Mon Calamari is Admiral Akbar.
Right.
He's talking about the son of a nobleman. I know there was a story about the Prince of Mon Calamari in Clone Wars, about him getting into a lot of trouble. So I don't know if it was a nod to that. Of course, that storyline is 30 years in the past at this point.
Yeah, and like Akbar's kid, I think, is around. Later on, or Akbar's nephew or grandchild, like something. They're on later on.
But it's far away.
That's in the comic books.
Ah, okay.
So there are other things that exist.
You're heading to the ocean dunes of Karnak?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go there.
No, I guess he's not heading towards the ocean dunes of Karnak, is he? Hey, you think he gave that puck back at the end?
Yeah, he definitely didn't.
No,
we saw
I guess he was in too big of a hurry to leave. So let's go on. What happens next?
What happens?
Well, he asks again.
Yes, he does.
He says, what are they going to do with it? And this time he calls it the kid.
And then he says the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're humanizing, for lack of a better word, the kid, the child. I wrote in my note, Empire, Mercenaries, and Warlords.
The Empire.
That's how Grief...
Yeah, the Empire is gone. The Empire is nothing but mercenaries and warlords now.
Because the Mandalorian's mad that they're doing business with the Empire.
Yeah.
And Grief says, what, it's just mercenaries and warlords now.
Yeah.
And then he says, really great line. What does he say he can do if he's upset? What does he tell the Mandalorian to do if he's upset?
Go to the core and tell the New Republic that they're here.
File a report with the New Republic. And it says that's a joke.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. I was wondering if that was a bounty hunter thing going to the Republic, if that was that the New Republic isn't strong enough to deal with anything yet.
It's a joke, Tim.
If it was like there are a lot of things that statement, that's a joke, could mean. I take it to mean all of them. Yeah,
I do too. I think and most importantly, the Republic's too weak. They can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And then he goes to his ship. Apparently he's gonna go find this Mon Calamari noble person, prince thing.
Yep, hits his 5 switches, switch,
and then
goes for the lever, or lever to others.
Lever? And the handle, the little knob is not on there.
It was hard to grab hold of. He couldn't grab from the top, he had to grab sideways.
Because some little Yoda creature had undone it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the heartstrings are pulled.
Yep, so he turns it, goes the lever, and then pulls it back.
Shuts down, and we hear the whoosh, 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 whoosh.
Yep. Hits those 5 again. This is where I renamed the episode.
What'd you rename it?
I felt like the episode should have been called The Toy.
The Toy. Oh, the Yoda baby toy.
Yeah. Anyway.
What do babies really want? A little metal thing that fits in their mouth and they can choke on.
I've talked about this before, I think. I don't know if it's been on our podcast.
Do not give your child a little metal ball.
We talk Star Wars a lot, so I can't remember if we've talked about this here or somewhere else.
Choking hazard?
No.
There's a lot of choking in Star Wars.
And I'm going to use the word keys, and I know they don't walk around with keychains and stuff.
They do. Anyway, side story. What?
Well, many of them don't have keys for their ship.
Apparently those little things on the officers' uniforms of the Empire, those little silver cylinders, are types of keys.
Okay.
Why do I know all this?
But I've always been bothered with this. Like, there are so many times in Star Wars where someone's just like, I need a ship. I'll take this one.
Yeah.
And it's like, it feels like a full honor system. But other times they're like, I gotta hotwire it. Like in Solo, he had to hotwire it.
Yeah.
But other times they're just like,
they run on board, they fired up.
And they just go, like whatever it is.
Keys to
Episode 1, Phantom Menace. Anakin jumps in a cockpit and it's like, one button,
ship.
one giant button hits the button and the whole thing lights up for him. Like,
heck yeah.
So,
yeah, well, I don't know. Like you say, honor system.
I've just always thought that was interesting and funny. And it, it kind of took us back to episode 1 with what was the guy, what was the name of the creature that he brought in for the bounty?
Episode 1? Oh,
Mithril. Chapter 1. Sorry, Chapter 1, everyone.
Mithril.
The Mithril.
Do you think that was a nod to Tolkien? Because it's silver and the Lord of the Rings is Mithril that the elves make. And now we got a creature called Mithril, and we're talking about Beskar, which is a steel only the...
Maybe.
Yeah.
Could be something in there.
Anyway,
so when he opened up his weapons compartment,
he just taps.
There's like 12 buttons on there or something, and he just like hits the right 5 and the thing opens up.
7-digit command code that he randomly hits correctly.
Yeah, so it's just I've always been kind of astonished by that in Star Wars. So I wish we had some background on how.
I love that the show's so good that this is the only
these are the complaints. Yeah. I'm complaining about things that are like a little bit in the show, but really outside of the show.
Don't bother you at all, really, because I mean, like the storyline, solid, the character. Oh, I love the show so much. All right, so now we begin. I'm going to rename the show John Wick.
Yeah,
because this is where we begin our John Wick version. So he climbs up on. Well, no, he goes to behind the building, and he sees the egg. That the baby was being transported. Suga. Well, not that egg. But
my wife saw that too. She saw him walk around the back. She saw the dumpster-looking thing.
Yeah.
And she went, "Oh, please don't let the crib be in there." That's what she said.
And it was.
And she was very upset when it was there.
What's that? It's the John Wick's dog.
It's really hard to watch a show with her sometimes because she's so good at seeing stuff that's coming. And I've already seen this one, as it usually is with Star Wars.
I'm starting to suspect your wife listens to the podcast.
Yeah.
So anyway, again,
she's pretty great.
Right on.
Even if she's not listening, she's the best.
My wife's really good too. All right. So anyway, we see the cradle thing in the trash, and that's just a disturbing image. I gotta admit.
Yeah, it is.
So he climbs on the roof, pulls his sights out. He's got a thermal sight, which is really cool, but it's also got a mic device. But you only hear part of the conversation. But what they say, so it's the client talking to Dr. Pershing.
Yes,
and he says, he ordered us to bring it back alive. That's what Dr. Pershing says to the client. And the client says, I can no longer guarantee your safety. And that's the only part of the conversation. But he
also
ordered
says,
us.
There's more than that.
Yeah.
He says you need to extract...
Yep, the sample.
The sample.
Yep.
Which was another interesting...
I got caught up. Well, I guess... So we never did talk about...
well, that took me back to the idea of cloning.
Is wearing the kimono uniform. A lot of people have pointed this out. I don't think we ever did.
We did. I thought we talked about it on here.
Maybe we talked about it last week. Again, like Tim mentioned earlier, if we talk about Star Wars off the podcast, yeah. Anyway, so we know he's associated. We did talk about it last week.
Yeah.
The Camino thing. So the sample thing didn't surprise me so much. But that he ordered us. Who is he? Are we going to find out who Snoke is? No, I'm serious. What if Snoke is the guy?
Snoke's in charge of the Empire and then just creates the First Order? And
maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's Palpatine. Maybe it's Palpatine. I don't know. But I want to know who he is.
Plagueis.
It's Plagueis.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Yes.
No?
Okay.
All right, well then I'll talk about it.
And now we're going to begin. So for the last time, we get the gatekeeper droid. Pokes his head out, and he just rips it off. And this, of course, lures 2 of the stormtroopers out.
And now we have, again, classic faulty stormtroopers.
Yeah.
So he says, classic line, or what I would consider a classic stormtrooper line, just the way he says it. Check the perimeter.
Check the perimeter.
Right.
So they check the perimeter.
But they don't, because
really.
he's right around the back, and he puts a device on the back wall.
Well, maybe they're being slow because they suspect a trap, and then he blows a hole in the back wall.
Yeah, he does.
He goes in and he begins just mowing through these people. The fourth kill, so the first two are pretty straightforward. He's hiding. They walk past him. He shoots them. Third one comes in. He throws him down. As he's walking out of the room, he shoots him in the head. That was
chest.
Well, shoots him. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, it was kill shot. That was number 3.
The fourth one, he hits him with the grapple hook, pulls him, and knifes him in the back.
Knife. Yeah,
that was wild.
And
this is when he walks in. So he kills a fifth one when he walks into the med bay.
Yep.
And they have the interrogation droid. That was terrifying seeing that thing again. It's kind of like when you talked about it during the Halloween special. Those things are scary, man.
They are scary.
And Pershing is there with his little Camino robes. I protected him, and he gets the asset.
All right, pause. What did he say? No.
Pause.
Not pause. What did Pershing say?
I protected him. I kept him alive.
He did. He said, I protected him. I kept him alive.
Yeah.
There's a really important word in there that we hadn't had yet.
Him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I wrote down that quote. You're right. We got a gender reveal.
Yes, we do.
Gender reveal party, everybody. Yoo-hoo.
Blue confetti.
Yay. Green confetti.
Green confetti.
Okay. So it's a boy. So he takes the baby. He continues to walk.
He also says, please don't hurt him.
Yeah, he does.
Which was really cool. I liked that.
I did too.
It gave him a different quality. Like he was almost being forced to work for the Empire is what it made me feel like.
So maybe he's not like a evil scientist so much. Because I saw people, one article had Dr. Mengele, and then it was scratched out and said Pershing. So a lot of people get...
Which is the feeling at first.
Yeah, you got an evil god.
In chapter 1, that was the feeling. But
look who he's hanging out with, man.
Yeah.
So we continue to go through and kill stormtroopers. The 10th one is the one he torches, which might be the most brutal death we've seen up to date, including the guy getting caught.
Too. I had a tally count going.
Yeah, the 10th one. So how many total did he get?
I counted 10.
I got 14 total. Because then he kills...
Oh, yeah. And then the 4 at the end.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then the last 4 he gets with the whistling birds.
Right.
And then he walks out.
The torch was...
that was rough, man, because they show it just smoking.
Oh, that was another problem that I had.
What?
That guy was 10, 12 feet away from him.
Yeah.
When he was facing his 9th kill.
Yeah.
He's facing his 9th kill. That guy opens the door about 10 feet behind him.
Right.
3 shots.
Yeah.
They didn't deflect off the Beskar.
He just missed?
They just missed.
Oh, no. Oh, no. We're doing this again?
There were just 3 full misses. And I haven't slowed it down to make sure it didn't bounce, but there were no holes in what we saw. He's got a pretty cool cape.
Yeah, well, Mandalorian.
Do they usually have capes?
Oh,
Because they got their jetpacks.
Well, they got so when they got the jetpack, they have poncho type things.
Yeah.
They wear off one shoulder, just like Clint Eastwood did in the spaghetti westerns.
Right.
But when they don't have them, I've noticed they all wear capes.
I love the cape.
I do too.
I think it was this was the first time that I really. Oh, because his rifle's always slung over his back. Maybe that's why I hadn't noticed it before.
I'm a little sad you haven't mentioned the cape I'm wearing right now.
I love capes. I was wearing a cape earlier today. Actually.
Yeah. So then he goes out, and the next scene we see the bar, and all the fobs start going off.
Yeah, they do.
And now it's on. Showdown. So Mandalorian's walking to his ship, and he's surrounded by... And they've got their weapons drawn and trained on him.
Yep.
And he's just walking, and then Grief steps out into the open, and then we begin the showdown. So, what do you want to say about this?
I know we've got to, we're in chapter 3 and we need to go through 8 chapters, but at this point, he's broken the code. He's essentially out of the guild.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't all just start shooting and they decided to talk to him first was...
Well, they I think, explain why. Do you hear them? They keep yelling, "Don't hit the child." I don't know what's changed with them.
But that seems like...
Yeah, because IG-11 was totally fine with killing the baby.
Right. I don't know. Whatever it was.
Don't kill the baby. But yeah, I did hear one of them say... I heard one of them say something about not shooting the child, something like that. And you notice Grief is like, put the child on the cart. So I don't know.
Maybe that's what. Maybe he just gave him that command. Put the try to protect the child first. There's no way anything's going to happen. We're going to shoot him if he doesn't.
Maybe there is a plot hole here in that if the real value, maybe not. I don't know. The client seemed okay with the death of it, but if they need it because of cloning material, then they do need the body.
But they wouldn't know that. And Grief, I'm sure, wouldn't have that information.
Yeah, but the client would. So him just saying proof of death means he doesn't really care about cloning either. Because proof of death doesn't necessarily include DNA. I don't know. And
maybe
anyway,
it does.
Maybe it does.
Maybe
Right.
blood sample is what they needed or something like that.
So he says, put him on the cart. He jumps on the cart. He rolls on there in the R, whatever version droid that is, that R4, R2 unit, whatever it is, R5. What do they call them?
I think they're
Mech droids?
called R4 units, but like the one we saw was an R5D4. Like it looked like that one.
Well, what's R2?
R2 is an R2 unit.
So the shape of the dome is what you think identifies it?
Yeah.
That was an R4 unit?
R4, R5, or whatever.
Well, either way, he doesn't want to drive, and the Mandalorian points his blaster at him.
To drive!
Go!
And he does.
He does.
Because they still have their,
And he starts shooting. He kills 12 dudes before Grief takes out. That's what I saw.
I have 13.
13?
But by 13th, actually, I have a question mark. Because there was something, I don't remember what happened. Something weird happened.
It might have been like they repeated a camera shot, so you couldn't tell if it was the second kill or if it was the first kill from a new angle.
I think it was like,
Something
did
like
the
that.
ship hit him and he fell, or did he shoot him in the, like, it was something weird where you couldn't, yeah.
But anyway, he takes out...
That was quite a few.
Takes out a lot of dudes before Grief, shoots the R4 droid, and now we're at a standstill. And this is where I want to bring up something. One of our listeners, Steve, sent in some feedback. He says he's glad that we're finally seeing in the Star Wars universe the importance of armor. And he mentions outside of stormtroopers, armor makes all the difference in this battle. And then he also brings up, and I'm glad that the bounty hunters were as kind of surprised by the disintegration weapon as anyone.
Yes.
Because that's what happens next. The disintegration rifle comes out, and he disintegrates 3 of them before all the rest of them scatter. And now we've got a bit of a standstill as, they don't want to come out of cover, but, he can't go anywhere either. So we got a little standstill. Grief starts talking to him, and we see a dude sneaking up, so that's Grief's hope. And Mandalorian shoots him.
Yep.
And then what happens?
Ooh,
he does. He pulls a flamethrower out.
That's one of them. It was after that.
So you didn't count the 3 disintegrations?
Well, the 2 guys that came up, he hit them.
Oh, yeah, he
hit
shocked one of them. Yeah.
But it was a quick shock, so I didn't know if that was the death. I think that was one.
That's a good point.
And then he shot the other one. That was my question mark.
Oh, my 12 count doesn't include the 3, so 15 including the guys he disintegrated, 16 including the guy he shot, who was sneaking up. What? No, you're right, he shocked him.
Yeah, quite a few.
So
he shocked one. There were 2. He shocked one, I think, and shot the other.
Grief says, impressive weapon.
Yeah.
So apparently this is not a commonly known weapon.
But he doesn't say anything else about it. That's just...
No. And then it looks like it's all over for our hero. They've got him surrounded. He can't move. He just stares down at Baby Yoda. And there's, again, the seemingly emotional moment as he's just looking at this little creature. And then all of a sudden we see a flash in the sky.
Yeah.
And it's kaboosh. It looks like a rocket flew
I would say it's a
it?
missile from...
Yahoo!
Yeah.
And the Mandos show up.
Backpack missile, Rocketeers.
And they've got jetpacks.
Yeah, they do.
And this is where it looks like an episode straight out of the Clone Wars, which if I'm saying that, that's a good comparison. I love the Clone Wars.
Yes.
They're flying, they're fighting. The heavy infantry guy drops down. He's lighting them up. Man, those bounty hunters got no chance at this point.
I'll tell you what, while we're there, because the jetpacks are so great, we had another Mandalorian called Sabine. You remember Sabine?
I remember Sabine Wren.
Sabine was from, what show was that?
A show called Rebels.
Oh, Rebels. Yeah,
Also
Rebels is
great.
awesome.
Yeah, I definitely love Rebels as well. And a lot of Mandalorian history in it.
I forced and fed that one, just like the Beskar that we're going to talk about again.
Yeah.
So, yes, this was amazing.
Have you seen Rebels?
I've seen Rebels. Rebels is awesome.
Rebels is awesome.
So they're there, and it really does look. That's what I was thinking. Like it looks like the clone. Like they did such a good job because how are they going to do the jetpack? I love the movie The Rocketeer.
Yeah.
But, there's always some of that, and they actually did a really good job in that movie of how unnatural it is to fly something like that on your back.
But these guys look, But,
like, just the control and the ability and the accuracy and the shots and the fighting and the destruction of the bounty hunters and everything was just like everything Star Wars.
Laying it down. So the heavy infantry guy lands beside him, and he says, "Now you're going to have to relocate the covert," and that's where we get the name Covert from. And the guy just answers, "This is the way."
This is the way.
And then they all repeat it back, "This is the way." So it's a beautiful moment. Kind of reminds me of Battlestar Galactica when they do the whole "So say we all."
Yeah.
I like that.
Same kind of idea.
So say we all. This is the way. And they give him, the Mandalorian gets to run onto his ship, and he's safe, right? Right? He's safe. He's gotten away, but no.
No, something's
Creed shows up.
Yeah.
Grief. Carl Weathers.
Yeah.
You got yourself a stew going, baby. So he shows up.
And then he again talks to him.
Yeah, you got to talk to him. Yeah. He doesn't. I
think you're right. I don't think he wants to kill the baby.
I think he wants that baby. Who
it's worth more alive.
Have you seen the baby?
Yeah.
Everybody wants that baby. I think it's adorable.
Yeah, it is.
I met a lady last night, and she didn't know I do a podcast about The Mandalorian or anything like that. Just out of nowhere, starts talking about, "Have you seen the baby on The Mandalorian? It's the cutest thing I've ever seen, and I don't even like babies." I think she said that. Maybe she didn't say that. But she did say cutest thing she'd ever seen. Anyway, uses his gauntlet to blow open the steam hose.
It's the, not the steam hose.
Whatever that thing was.
No, it was the carbonite chamber.
Oh, good call. I didn't even pay attention. I just was like, that's what they always do in ships is they break open a steam pipe.
Yeah, no, he hit the carbonite. That's right.
That's awesome.
He knew exactly what it was going to do, and then he tucked over and Grief took a few shots, and then all of a sudden, Grief got shot.
Boosh, right in the chest, right at the heart.
Right in the chest plate.
Yeah, and of course, as soon as he got shot, did you have any doubt what had happened there?
It zapped. You could see it. You could see the deflection.
But he does say to him, "You broke the code."
Yes.
So this is the other version of sin, I guess we see here.
Code is capitalized. It's
the code.
Proper noun. It's if you read the credits.
So
or
then
the captions.
We wrap up the episode.
Well,
what else?
So there's more here. So he shoots him.
Yeah, he does.
Grief doesn't die.
He's got Chekhov's Beskar. He can't die.
Why did Grief not die?
Because he had Beskar in his pocket and he got shot in the heart. And the Beskar stopped it.
The Mandalorian knew exactly where to shoot. I don't think that was an accident.
Oh, good call.
Our conversation.
He's a dead shot with that.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Between the stormtroopers,
not even think about that.
And the bounty hunters, he was hitting it precise every time.
But he did not want to kill Grief.
He did not kill him.
Good call,
and I think some of that, I think that's redemption from the
Yeah.
He had to kill the bounty hunters that were killing at the time, but
yeah, there's no way out.
He didn't have to go for a kill shot here.
No, good call. Yeah. I wonder if Grief will recognize. I bet he'll know that too.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that Grief comes back at some point. His character's back and forth for me. I don't know if I ever want to see him again.
Well,
we
want to like Carl Weathers. I think is also part of it.
I think that is the big part of it.
Yeah.
So I kind of want him back. I kind of don't. It was like Beckett and Solo.
So yeah,
it's the same kind of do I want to see this guy again or not? I kind of do. I kind of don't.
I definitely want to see him again. I'm glad he's alive.
So for Grief, I definitely want to, and I think it was intentional. This is the way.
I think you're right. So he takes off, and before he breaks atmosphere, we get a very Marvel moment here.
Yeah.
Is that how it felt to you? He salutes him like the American military style salute. The Mandalorian flying, and of course, and what were you gonna say?
Well, I kind of had the Rocketeer feel again.
Yeah,
whole that was
it's very superhero.
And now, was that the heavy infantry?
I think it was.
I couldn't tell because they didn't look quite as big.
Maybe it wasn't. Who knows?
But I couldn't actually tell who it was.
I guess we're supposed to know.
All right. Anyway, so what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, what's his next line? As soon as the guy salutes at him and just flies away, he says what I've been saying since this series started about him. He's got to get one of those.
I've got to get one of those.
I've got to get one of those. And then he into space, but before he goes into hyperdrive.
Now, before this, and I want to say it, there's something, the jetpack thing.
Yeah.
So he's building this armor, he's rebuilding his armor, but he doesn't have a jetpack.
I got to get one of those.
Got to get one of those. These other ones, they have the jetpacks.
They got them.
But I don't think they all have full Beskar.
Didn't seem that way, no. Unless they paint them. It's hard to tell. I assume some of them paint them.
Some of them have to paint them.
Yeah.
So it's just hard to tell. I can't tell if they've all got that already.
Yeah.
And that would explain some of the, this is appropriate for your station. You're rising up, but you're not actually where some of these others are. If you haven't been able to build a jetpack yet. But it's just a weird it was a weird moment.
Yeah.
All right, so we're back on the ship. We got the salute. It was awesome. I loved the salute. I'm sure, I watched it and I was like, ooh, some people are going to have issues with that. I loved it.
It's, and then the very last thing that happens.
He doesn't need that lever anymore, so he untwists
it.
It was cool. And he dropped it and let him catch it too, and that was...
Baby Yoda gets a toy that you should never give a child because it's a choking hazard. But it's very cute.
This child has lifted a mud horn, so
that's true.
This is the way.
He swallowed a frog whole, so that ball's probably not a choking hazard for him. But that's the episode. Man, we've gone long. But I mean, Hugh, where's he going? Where's he gonna go? My guess hope is there's another covert somewhere. I want to see more Mandalorians, but there's another hiding place for Mandalorians, and that's where he's going to go. Because he's now what's left of the Empire is going to be looking for him. All the bounty hunters that ever existed are probably looking for him, including the shady ones that aren't part of the guild.
Yeah.
The sloppy ones, as they were called in the first episode.
So I have a slightly different theory. I'm wondering if we're going to see any more Mandalorians.
Maybe they had to scatter.
I hope we do, but
yeah.
I'm thinking they're going to go somewhere, and he may not have contacted them for a while. I'm thinking that season 1 of The Mandalorian is going to be the Mandalorian and the child,
who
we might get a name for next episode because now he owns them, right? Essentially,
yeah.
So that'd be cool.
Well, they're buddies now. He's got a sidekick.
Yeah. So I'm hoping he gets
Yeah, that's a good point because he wouldn't want to take however they track him, whatever that fob is cued in on, he wouldn't want to take that to another Mandalorian covert, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
So I wonder if whatever season 1 wrap-up is going to be, where it's finally at the end of the season, I'm expecting there to be okay, whatever's going on, I'm safe from this bounty pull, right? It's got to happen at some point.
Yeah.
We're not going to have seasons and seasons where he's being hunted by all bounty hunters everywhere. So I'm thinking season 2 might be better named with a plural. Called the Mandalorians.
Heck yeah!
So that'd be a cool way to go about it.
Yeah, I'd love to see some Mandalorian world building, and the world building has been excellent so far. Just these planets they've taken us to, and these cultures as we're seeing them, just feels real. I like it. So, do we got any theories to talk about? There are some theories that we can talk about. Is Baby Yoda a clone? Is one of the theories that's been thrown out there because obviously the cloners, the Kaminoans, them some good cloners.
Yeah, damn good ones too.
That's what I've heard.
Sorry, that's a direct quote from the movie.
That is a direct quote.
Still child-friendly show.
Again, sort of a question of theology there. So is he a clone of Yoda that Palpatine had made when he had the clone army designed? Who knows? That he was, if he is a clone, he was made before the clone army, I guess. I got to do the timeline on that. So he would have been born around... No, it would have been around the same time.
No, it was 10 years... No, it was 10 years before...
And is he a normal aging clone like Boba Fett, or is he an accelerated aging clone? If he's an accelerated aging clone, if he is a clone, then he'll be of age by the time we get to Rise of Skywalker.
So I think Anakin was 19 in Episode 2, at the start of Episode 2.
He was. He was either 19 or 20.
I haven't seen her in 10 years, because he was 9 in the first one. 10 years later, he saw Padme.
Yeah.
And they said that Cypher Dyas was killed... Well, no, Cypher Dyas was killed nearly 10 years ago, but was that right? He may have done the clone army earlier than that.
We got some homework to do. Because Yoda on unveils a lot more of this in the.
How old is Django?
I don't know. That's a good question.
That would have been like 20 years earlier for Django to have been the one that they took the DNA from.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. He looks like he's probably about 40, or maybe in his mid-40s. So, yeah, I mean, he would have been a 20-year-old, 22-year-old. Yeah, I mean...
That's a college kid trying to pay stuff off. You're like, yeah, I'll come in for this medical test. You give me some money. It's no problem.
I answered an ad. Yeah. So, Django.
Django, this is the way.
Yeah, so anyway, I don't guess I really have any new theories to add this week. You got anything?
No, nothing on that.
Well, we're an hour and almost 20 minutes in at this point, so...
Yeah, we are. So, I really, and I know that I've said this, I think the last 2 episodes, but I did a little bit of comic book talk there. I really want to get back into some comic book talk, and...
I thought our concern was it might be a little spoilery.
Well, that was the one. Issue 75, it's the last issue, I think, of the Star Wars book. It's called Destination Hoth, and this is the end of between episodes 4 and episodes 5. If you like comics but you didn't get into this one just because you came in late, starting January 1st, I think, will be the release of January 1st, 2020 will be the release of Star Wars issue 1, which will take place between episodes 5 and episode 6, between Empire and Return of the Jedi, and what's going on with all of our favorite original characters.
Yay.
From that. So there's some interesting stuff coming. I will absolutely be talking about it then. I'm probably going to have some Destination Hoth conversation later on. I really want to make sure we give it enough time, and like he said, we're an hour and 20 minutes in, and we appreciate you listening this far. That you are hopefully enjoying this.
Yep, we love the show, so honestly I could talk for another hour about it. The next episode, though, it will come out the day after Thanksgiving here in the United States, so that will be November 29th is the next episode of The Mandalorian.
The next chapter of The Mandalorian. I thought you meant the next episode.
Oh, no, chapter 4 of The Mandalorian.
Yes.
And that was interesting because in our very first Mandalorian episode, we were like, okay, they don't have titles. It looks like they're just calling them chapters 1 through 8. But now we know that they do have titles. They made the decision not to release the titles because they thought they were potentially spoilery. So I really appreciate that they did that. This whole thing is so well run. It's so well done. Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni forever. I wish Rise of Skywalker was done by them. I wish everything was... I hope Obi-Wan Kenobi's done by them.
Yes.
Did you see where they're talking about a Mace Windu spinoff? I hope that's just talk because of all the characters... That's the,
you mean when he spins off the building?
Yes. Yeah. The only one I'd rather less see would be Jar Jar. A Jar Jar spinoff would be the only thing I would want less than a Mace Windu spinoff.
Unless it was the after story of Jar Jar in the slums of Coruscant.
I need to know what happened to Jar Jar. Jar Jar, how did he die?
You know what, though? No, they don't talk about when he died. They talked about when he had this horrible life after. He does have 2 of my favorite lines, though. Misa going home and Misa Palos are here.
Misa Palos is... Okay. I don't want to talk about...
I'm not a big fan of Jar Jar.
I don't know. Misa... Okay. So I think... You got anything else? Are we done?
I think so. I think
you got any inspired thoughts? I don't.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then thank you for listening to our episode. And again, thanks to all our new listeners. And if you have listened this long, then you must be as interested as we are. And please leave that 5-star review because we just spent a lot of time talking about Star Wars. And as for now, I'm Jim.
And I'm Tim.
And this has been Our Certain Point of View. Good night, everybody.
Hello there. This is Tim. I'm doing my second episode in a row solo adventure. The first one I didn't know about. Actually, we forgot to add a little piece in, and that is...
I'm still here. What?
Now I'm Han Duo, as named by the Imperials. We wanted to say that our Thanksgiving week episode may be a day later than originally scheduled. Maybe. We scheduled that Monday, December 2nd, 3rd? I think December 3rd. There's a chance it'll be about a day late, depending on what's going on that December 2nd, yeah. So, depending on what's going on, we might be a day late on that one. We apologize, but we did want to let you know right up front in case you were we're hoping you were looking for us that Monday, but we don't want you to be without if you were looking. So we'll be out shortly after, maybe even that day. It just won't be as quick because
we'll see what happens.
Thanksgiving done so. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Audio 1.